Okay, we're looking at solving by factoring again. So there's nothing really new. It's just there's a couple tricky things that you got to worry about on some of these. So the problems will be a little bit more difficult, but the process is still the same. So the first thing you want to do is make sure it's equal to zero, which it is, and then you want to factor the quadratic. So remember when you factor to always look for a common factor first. And so what can we divide all three of those numbers by is the question. And 16 can only be divided by 4, 8, 2, and 16. None of those are going to go into 35, so we can't do a common factor. So then you just go to the star and do a times c on the top, b on the bottom. So we've got 35 times negative 64. It's going to be negative 2,240. Looks like a fun one. On the bottom, we're going to have negative 16. And then on the bottom side, we'll have 35. So when you have a big number like that, just grab your calculator, start dividing. Take that 2240 and start dividing by numbers. Now, if you start small, like I often say, it's going to take you a while. So just to show you, if you divide that by 2, you get 1120. And that's not going to get anywhere close to subtracting to get 16. So I would definitely skip ahead quite a bit. Even if you skip up to 10, it's still going to be 224. Subtract that, you're not very close to 16. And when I say subtract that, I mean 224 minus 10. So then take 2240 and divide it by, I don't know, let's try 20. 2240 divided by 20 is going to be 112. So 112 minus 20, we're still quite a ways off. So let's skip up to 40 and see what happens there. So 2240 divided by 40 is going to be 56. And 56 minus 40 is 16. That's what we're looking for right there. I didn't know ahead of time what the numbers were going to be, so I'm just guessing and checking. That's all I'm doing here. So take those two numbers, 40 and 56, and put them on the sides. Now, one of the two has to be a negative in order to multiply to get a negative. And the big one has to be a negative in order to add them to get a negative 16. So the 56 will make a negative. Then we need to reduce these side fractions. 40 over 35 can both be divided by 5. So that's going to be 8 over 7. And 56 over 35 can both be divided by 7. So that's going to be negative 8 over 5. So now I have my side fractions. Now I can write my binomials. We have 7v plus 8 and 5v minus 8. Set those both equal to 0, solve them, and we have our answers. So we have 7v plus 8 equals 0, and 5v minus 8 equals 0. So solve them both for v, and then we have our solutions. So I'm going to subtract 8 on both sides of this one. Remember to keep them separate. So we have 7v equals negative 8. And then I'm going to divide by the 7. So v is negative 8 over 7. So that's one of my solutions. Then I'm going to add 8 over on both sides of this other equation. So I have 5v equals 8 divided by 5. So v is equal to 8 over 5. And there's my two solutions. Okay, so one thing that can happen is the factoring gets more difficult than it was on the previous assignment. The other thing that can happen, number 2, we don't have it equal to 0. Right? We want to get this equal to 0, and when you solve it for 0, you want to keep your a term positive. So the a term is over here on the left-hand side, and it's already positive. So don't move this x squared to the right. You want to keep it where it is and move the negative 2 minus 2x to the left. So let's go ahead and add the 2. Add the 2. Now, these are going to be like terms, right? So I'm lining up the like terms. Then I'm going to add 2x, and I'm going to put it under its like term on the left-hand side. And then I'm going to combine my like terms. So on the left-hand side, this x squared is going to drop down. And then I have 2x plus 2x, so 4x. And then 2 plus 2, so 4. Then on the right-hand side, both of these cancel out and leave me with 0. So now that it's equal to 0, now I can factor and solve just like I did with number 1. Okay, so a times c will be 1 times 4, so 4. And then b is going to be the 4 in the middle. And a on the sides is 1. So we need to multiply to get the 4 on top and add to get the 4 on the bottom. 2 and 2. Right? 2 times 2 is 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. So then I'm going to simplify these fractions, except they don't. They are already simplified. And then write your binomials. So we have 1x plus 2, 1x plus 2 equals 0. So they happen to be the same. So when they're the same, you're only going to get one solution because you're going to get the same solution twice. So we set them equal to 0, subtract 2. X is going to be negative 2. Subtract 2 over there, x is negative 2. So you only need to write it once, but there's your solution. So number 3, remember I said the a term, you want it to be positive. So we have 3x squared on the left side of the equals. We have 2x squared on the right. So we want to move the 2x squared to the left, because when you move it, you change the sign, right? So you're going to subtract 2x squared from both sides. If you did it the other way, then your x would be negative. So yeah, I'm going to move everything to the left on this one. And I'm going to add 1 to both sides. And that's going to be a like term with the 55. And then I'm going to add 15x to both sides. So there's a lot of pieces going on around here, but everything's on the left now. And then you just combine all your like terms on the left-hand side and write it in A, B, C order. So you put your squares first. So we have 3x squared minus 2x squared. So that's going to be 1x squared. Then we have 15x. There's not another x term. Right? When you look at all of these terms, the only x term is that 15x. So he's just going to drop down. So we have plus 15x. Then we're going to add our numbers together. 55 plus 1 is going to leave us with 56. And now all of the terms on the right-hand side are gone, so we have equal 0. Then go ahead and factor and solve from there. From there, it's the same. So yeah, always keep your a term positive. That'll make things easier for you. Okay, but your idea is just to move things to one side of the equation. It doesn't always have to be on the left, but you can do it either way. But always keep your a term positive, get it equal to 0, and then factor and solve.